If you are facing potential organ transplant and you are hesitating at all, please listen to this story. I want to share with you today just an illustration I've used a number of times, a true story in my life that I think perfectly illustrates just what transplant might be able to do for you. Okay, so it kind of goes back to about 25 or some odd years ago. My wife and I had just got married. We just bought a piece of property in a home that had about 5 acres. At that time, most of the property itself had not even ever been cut as far as cutting the grass. It had kind of been a grazing field for cows and goats and other farm animals or something like that. But we had not cut the grass, nor had the prior owner really cut the grass at all, except for right in one little spot. So we decided we wanted to clear all of that off. So we got a friend to come out. He helped us out with it. He kind of bush hogged it, got things cleaned up, at least initially, and then it went away and left us to keep it up for ourselves. And so we had a push mower. I think we may have even bought an extra push mower. We had a couple push mowers, and we learned really, really quickly trying to cut 5 acres with a push mower almost got you nowhere. You would cut 4 days a week, and on the 5th day, you finally have a break, and then turn around and be time to start cutting again. You know the situation. Throwing a few days of rain, seemed like we could never get that accomplished. So we went out and scrounged up. I don't remember, somebody gave it to me or we bought it cheap or something like that, but we managed to scrounge up an old riding lawnmower. Now, it wasn't too good, didn't look too great, had a few issues. I think the steering wheel's bent a little bit, so it was kind of hard to steer. It would spit and it would sputter and it would cut out sometimes, and sometimes it wouldn't crank. Even when it did, it would oftentimes throw belts. The blades would bend easily. It was just a mess, but we struggled through, and generally speaking, we could at least get that acreage cut in about 1 day. And I mean by that, about a 5 or 6 hour day, sweating in the boiling hot sun on that lawnmower, you could get it accomplished. But as time grew on and as things got a little bit older, at least as that mower got a little bit older, it got worse and worse, and it got to the point where you really couldn't even finish a grass cutting. You'd cut an area, then it would quit and then cut out, and you'd have to take it off and work on it or something like that. We just couldn't get much accomplished, but we struggled through a few different seasons with that. Now, eventually, we got to a place where we decided, look, we can't do this anymore. That one's just not doing at all what we needed to do. So we went out and purchased a brand new lawnmower. Now, maybe our mistake, but we kind of bought the same model, same brand, just obviously much newer. But we bought a brand new model of kind of what we had before, and for a while, it worked wonderfully. I mean, it was a dream. We had cut our grass cutting time from about 5 hours down to about 4 hours. And, so we were doing a lot better because it wasn't stalling out and quitting. But eventually, as time wore on, it just wasn't a very sturdy lawnmower, and it began to do some of the same things, spit and sputter and cut out. And they would throw belts all the time. And the switch that's underneath the seat, the safety mechanism that tells it you're sitting on the lawnmower or you're not, so that it cuts the engine off, that got messed up, and you would kind of have to slide over and sit on one side of the seat to keep pressure on it. It was pretty aggravating as well, but we were still, we were getting the grass cut, and we were pretty happy with what we had. Not completely satisfied, but we were making it. So, hey, if you're getting it done, just go with it. That's all we need to do. But eventually, a good friend of mine who happened to own a lawn care business, he came by one day and was visiting with me, and he said, hey, I'm thinking about buying some new lawnmowers for my business. Would you like to buy one of my zero-turn mowers and try it out and, use it? It'll do a lot better, a lot faster work than what you're used to. Nah, I said, I don't need that. I can't afford that. I'm not interested. I just don't want to go with that. Well, he continued to kind of press a little bit. He had a $4,000 or $5,000 more. He wanted $1,000 for it. And we went back and forth, and I kept telling him, well, I've got a mower. It's not great. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done. Until finally I gave in, and very hesitantly, I said, I tell you what, Matt, I'll buy the mower. Okay, it'll help you out. It'll help me out. So I went ahead and bought the mower for $1,000 or whatever. Really, still not sure of what I would do, but I had it now. I'd made the purchase. So debated on whether or not that was a good decision, but at least I had done it. I had bought the mower. And so I took my mower and gave it away or something like that, gave it to somebody else. It was fairly new, but it had its problems, and went out for the first time and started to actually try to cut my entire yard on his mower. And then even still, there were some there were some difficulties. I just wasn't a good driver. I wasn't used to using that zero turn mower. So I made some mistakes and cut a few corners I shouldn't have cut and did some things, ran over a few of my wife's freshly planted little mini trees she had planted. Things just weren't going great, but at least they were going. And I noticed there, even after that first cut, what had been taking me previously with that old beat up mower, 5 hours or more, cut down to 4 with a newer mower, I was now cutting my grass within an hour and a half. And as time went on and each Saturday or whatever day I would end up getting out there to cut, I got faster and faster until right now, I absolutely love that mower. I mean, it's older now and everything, but I can use it. I'm used to it. I know its function and I can use it. I can cut my grass now in 45 minutes or less. I mean, saves me so much time. And I realized when I finally got used to it, I finally got to where I could do it, I thought to myself, why didn't I do this a long time ago? Why had I went so many years with that old beat up 2-bit mower that just couldn't get the job done? And then why had I gone out and tried to patch things up by basically buying the same old slow, turtle mower that I had before when I could have had this? I could have had this the whole time. And I say that because that in some ways certainly illustrates my life as a transplant patient, basically my whole life. And that is, I started out with an old beat up mower of a heart and it worked. And with some patchwork and, some adjustments and all, I managed to make it through the majority of my life. But as things got older and as I got older and as my heart got more and more weakened, things got more difficult to the point I could not even get anything done. I didn't have any energy. I couldn't hardly take a shower and eat a meal without having to collapse for a nap. And then much like getting that newer mower, I can remember back when I got my ICD put in and I started an IV medication and some other medications that helped me. They gave me a boost. They gave me some energy. But still there were problems. There were problems that were now hidden. And then once I got my brand new heart, it was like a zero-turn mower. It was a whole new world, albeit I had to get used to it. I had to adjust. I had to adapt. I had to learn. But here I'm 9.5 years post, and I'm so happy. And I wish to myself all those years I had gone with that heart that was, on its last leg proverbially, or maybe literally. Heart don't have legs, so does it? On its last beat or two. I almost wish I'd gotten my new heart earlier. I wish I hadn't hesitated. I wish those times when the doctors came in and evaluated me for transplant, and it was even up in discussion if I would want a new heart or not, I wish I had just said, you know what, I think it's time. I'll go for it. If you're willing to do it, I'll take it. But I hesitated. So I'm encouraging you with this, and this is kind of the moral of the story. I know that facing any transplant surgery, whether it's heart, lung, liver, kidney, pancreas, whatever, when you're in failure, even facing the opportunity of something that could be better, I know that's scary. I know it can be an anxious time. I know it can be a nervous time, a time that of the unknowns, the uncertainties. But just like me going all the way from that old beat up, used, tore up, worthless almost riding lawnmower up to what I have now with that zero turn that runs as smooth as glass and as quick as a cat, it's a different ball game. So I want to encourage you to make that step forward. Yes, there'll be some times, there'll be some bumps in the roads, there'll be a learning curve, there'll be some things that you'll need to adjust and adapt to, but I promise you this, it will be worth it. Moral of the story, you may not know what you're missing. Stay stronger, friends.